back, it's Christine again with the Artist Pod, and today we'll be talking about how to draw a flamingo. As always, I'm using a Wacom Intuos Pro tablet and I'm drawing straight into Photoshop. So, let's get arting. Alright, so here is the flamingo. They can look a little scary. Their mouths are kind of downturned and they look kind of grumpy, so I made the artistic decision to upturn his mouth instead of downturn his mouth, so that he has a little bit of a smile instead of a grumpy little face. We'll see how that goes as I'm drawing it. Obviously they're kind of pink peachish colors, so I'm gonna do, well, and there's white. There's white by the face and the eye here. It goes back to that pinkish color and then it goes to black down his beak. But I'm gonna get all of this like pinkish peachish kind of color in as shadow, but being mindful, you know, as I'm doing that with this style, you know, I draw in the individual feathers. Now, when I say in shadow, it's light pin pressure, but the act of like stopping the lines at the end of the feather means that by fully filling it in, we'll still be able to see the individual feathers, and I'm just going to show you that in a second, and then I'll get to drawing it. Right, so just this light pin pressure. I don't want anything heavy. Now, more lines like light pin pressure also brightens it up, so I need to make sure that I am backed off on my lines as well, so that I'm not adding too much. It's really easy to accidentally overdo relatively quick. Right, so if I take this off, now that I've drawn a little bit up, like you can still kind of see the individual feathers, and that's kind of the goal, right? Those gaps will fill in more when I do highlights, but that'll help show the feathers. So I'm gonna get the rest of this pink done, again in that shadow, so we're not going to do any highlights yet, just in the shadow, and I'll be right back. I should probably just go ahead and get the gray in. I switched over to the sketch layer because I didn't actually mark what my gray was going to be, so I just did. So gray, black, right? It's kind of the same thing. It's not really, but we use gray for black, and by we I mean me. Same thing though, right? It's still just lightly sketching it out. So just like with that peach, I'm gonna get this in as a sketch, as that as shadow, that very light pin pressure, and I will be right back. So now that the whole thing is done in shadow, we're gonna add the highlights, unsurprisingly. Okay, so as I add highlights, I've kind of indicated to myself where I already have the shadows, right? Some shadowing through here, under the neck where the beak's coming down, behind the neck, on the top where the head would be folded over. So I've kind of indicated to myself where there would be some shadowing if the light source were above. So I'm gonna basically draw that in with that assumption. As I do, I don't have to add full pin pressure, but I could, because we've already added shadows, so therefore it'll be a little easier to brighten it up. And I'm gonna keep myself contained in each of these little spots. I can have some bleed over, but I'll show you how it looks. As I get over towards areas where there might be shadowing, like through here, I'm going to back off my pin pressure, but full pin pressure into backed off pin pressure, full pin pressure, and then I kind of back that off into shadow. Right, so I'm just kind of staying within the sketches I've already done. So I'm going to take that off. That's how it'll look. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this done, being mindful of where I've kind of just made squiggle lines indicate I think it should have shadow, and filling in the rest of this sort of peach, and I will be right back. the pink, peachish kind of color. Done minus some potential tweaking that I'm gonna do right now. But otherwise done. It's just a matter of like nitpicking as I'm looking at it and thinking something doesn't quite look right. Yeah, okay. So, that's the pink done. I think it's interesting looking at it. Both the white and the gray look green to me at the moment. And that way that color is playing with my eyes. But that'll fix some as we start drawing a little bit more. I'm just gonna fill this in a little bit so it's not just a black gap, but I still need to make sure it's very clearly the mouth, yeah. Which is a little smirk instead of their typical frown should be visible once we add in the highlights as well. Alright, so just like I did before, I'm going to do the gray first for the highlights. So that's pretty straightforward. I'm just continuing the shadow, right? Like this is the angle of the shadow, that's the angle I'm going to continue the shadow. So it's nothing too like, you know, astronomical here. I just need to once again be mindful of the mouth and highlight in between where that shadow would hit and the mouth, right? So then just like I did up there, tapering the shadow off, but otherwise that's going into shadow. And then the top, you know, you'd have a little bit of shadowing down where the mouth, where the separation in the mouth, the actual gap is, and then it would go back into highlight. So I'm gonna get this done, and I will be right back. That last bit being white. Still gonna have that shadowing underneath, right down in here. I'm just giving it a little bit of a runway. And then you're gonna have that full pin pressure kicking in. And of course you're gonna have where the mouth is. And once again giving it a little bit of a runway for it, both above and below. Just like I did in the other spots. And that would be full pin pressure. And then, you know, holding that full pin pressure. And the lining up against the white versus the peach doesn't really matter. It's fine. But, right, this is basically the same thing we have been doing. Beak is straightforward. That's just going to remain sort of, you know, the same. It's the eye. You know, as you get to the eye, the way I'm doing this, the way I did it, it's a whole lot of like ups and downs. And then of course, you know, there's shadows here as well. So still those extreme kind of shadows, just with that kind of up and down of the creates the illusion of skin. Like birds have that kind of textured skin or whatever. Now I did leave a gap by the eye as it sinks down. Just making sure it's rounded. As it sinks down under the eye, this would be in shadow. And then of course, you know, it's got some other shadowing as well. So I'm gonna finish out the white, and then I'll be right back. Kind of hard. You get kind of that smile on its face. Okay, now, so going to choose a light blue, and should look really good actually. I'll be drawing this into the areas that have shadow, but being mindful of like the individual feathers. So I'm not putting a lot of pin pressure, and I'm still at this point kind of following the ups and downs. And yes, even into the nostril just a bit. Just sort of filling that in, and I'll be filling it into the feathers as well. Blue is an amazing blue, especially when it's working with warmer colors. Does amazing things. And even though this is a light blue, it'll still look as a shadow to us. Just incredible. Again, putting that light pin pressure, basically just sort of lightly filling this in. So there'll be a bigger bump for sure along right, this backside as we come over here. Also using it in between any of these bigger gaps, where there's a big gap between the feathers, also putting some blue in there. Right, and you can kind of see, again, I'm not putting a lot of pin pressure, but you can kind of see what that's doing. And kind of that idea, right, is I'm pushing into all those spots that are shadows. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of these areas. Again, light pin pressure. And I will be right back. We can ramp it up or down. Well, it's a lot harder to ramp down. But if I wanted to make it brighter, I could. You can overdo it. Too much blue will start making it look just sort of off. So typically when I'm doing it, I put it in all of those spots that are shadows. And then in any big gap, you can see I didn't do it around every single feather. But any big gap, I would add some blue, which makes the blue a little bit more cohesive throughout and creates a little bit more texture. And just sort of, sorry, adding it in a few other spots. Again, nothing big, but I didn't do it up in here. So having that little bit in between can be good. just add something to the overall image. And even though this is a light blue, it still works. When we look at it, we still look at it and think of it as shadow. So I'm tinkering a bit, but I'm going to push just a little bit more than I have it. Brightening up a few of the feathers using the blue, sort of around. I'm doing this on another layer though, because this is just kind of an experiment to see how that would look. Again, you don't want to do it with all of them, so I am definitely picking and choosing what I'm doing here. Actually, I actually think that looks interesting. Yeah, we're gonna do that. And maybe a bit, just a little extra burst of blue under here. Okay. Now, I'm gonna add kind of a warm color, not the peach. It's already there. I just needed that for reference. I'm just deciding on if I'm gonna do red or orange. We're gonna do orange, actually. We'll see what this does. So basically anywhere that there is highlight, I just don't think that's a different enough color. That's what I'm debating on. Colors. Yeah, I think that would be noticeable. So basically just where I think highlight would be really catching, I'm gonna draw some of that in. It's in the brightest of the bright spots. Really laying it on thick because I do want that to be noticeable. You can see I'm not putting it everywhere though. See what a difference that makes too. It seems subtle, but it can be significant. Last thing to do is the eye. Do a slightly redder version of the feathers. And I kind of already half drew this in. It's not fully drawn in, right? But we have, you know, the pupil here. Basically do a circle all the way around, and then you fill it all the way in, right? So this, you basically just do a circle all the way around the eye. So I'm going to do this, fill in the rest of the eye, and I'll be right back. I'm going to take the elliptical marquee tool, create oval, circle, usually a circle. I'm gonna hit the backspace button to clear that out, select and inverse it so that now what's selected is around the pupil, and then I'm gonna draw in a different direction that I already drew, just against the pupil, just to clean it up. It's such an important thing to get right. Being very, very light as they come up because there's going to be a shadow there. And then deselect, right? So we end up with a nice pupil there. Start a new layer, put a nice solid burst kind of off to the left, right? The light source is above, but it's also a little bit to the left. And then putting that full pin pressure on that side. And then as you get to the edge, let that fade out again, right? Because that wouldn't be, the edge of the eyes would have shadowing as well. Even with humans, when our irises aren't going back into our head, they have a dark ring around them, but in case of this flamingo, it's going back into his head. Right, so that strong burst all the way underneath and to the edge. And then as we come onto this side, it's still going to be a nice strong burst, but not nearly as bright as the other side. A little bit more shadow. And then we can really brighten that up if we wanted to. Now, if I ever draw up in here, I'm always very careful because you can make the animal look surprised. Don't necessarily want to do that. Okay. Now, the last thing to add is the light flare. I kind of had drawn something in, but I'm gonna... Right, so usually I'll do a little circle, but lately I've been experimenting with some other shapes. Either way, you want it in the pushing into the pupil, and preferably balanced with the iris as well. And then I'll typically fill this in a little bit more solidly. When I do it, you'll notice that I'm in highlight, I'm not up here in shadow. Alright, there we go. A pink flamingo. Alright, so that's how you draw a flamingo. I hope that was helpful. In the floating nether next to me I have other videos of art tutorials I have done. I will see you all soon. Thank you so much. Take care.